Everybody sit now. Everybody sit now. After
I'm down in New York with Reuben Forsland of Troy Guitars, and he just went back today, back to Canada, and yeah, here I am in Brooklyn. And
So you're still in Brooklyn, and Reuben is now coming back to Canada?
Mm-hmm. He
Okay.
forgot his wallet in the car, in the cab.
No.
So I was driving away from the you know that feeling you get in your heart or in your mind, that little voice that chatters that goes, Reuben forgot something. And he had his Troy guitar, the Jimi Hendrix guitar that he built from Jimi Hendrix's family home. You know that guitar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he had this priceless guitar with him in this giant box, but he filled it with a bunch of clothes. And he's walking through the airport with his, 4 foot, 5 foot box, FedEx box, stumbling around. And we're just two Canadian guys in New York stumbling around with this thing because he doesn't want to walk around with it. It's like the Holy Grail when it comes to the significance of that piece, right? So he's all tied up in that, and he forgets his wallet in the car. And my Uber driver drives back to drop him off the wallet, and he drops me off in Brooklyn. And I realized at that moment that I got an Airbnb in a really bad area of town. I get out of the Uber, and this guy goes, "Oh, hey, don't walk that way."
No way.
Yeah, I was walking I was going the wrong direction into a bad area of town, which is only 2 blocks or so away from where I'm staying. I knew it was a bad area of town for when I went into a cafe and just finally sat down and I felt like I had a little shelter from the storm outside. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just sit in here and just wait till my Airbnb opens up. I can finally check in, which was another 3 or 4 hours away. Meanwhile, Reuben's wallet's getting shipped back to him. Anyways, this guy comes in and starts threatening the guy behind the till. Some guy off the street just comes in and I'm just sitting there like, I just want to book a flight home. Oh my God, I can't believe, why am I here? Why am I here? So it's not easy, man, doing these kind of trips. I'm sure
I actually wanted to go on that trip with him. But I know, I met with him, must have been a couple of months ago now, and he was talking about going back down, and I said, I want to come with you.
Yeah, you're just joking. Somewhat joking.
Well, yeah, I'm like half joking, but in my heart, I'm like, I really need to go. But we just didn't, the stars didn't align. So I was busy anyway. So was it a good trip?
I'm still on it. The trip's still happening. But when we were together, it was a great trip.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So he got there before you did, though, right?
Yeah, just a couple of days, and he was down there with B.B. King's drummer Tony Coleman, who was putting together this event that's a tribute to B.B. King, and so a bunch of blues guitar players, 4-hour-long concert, nonstop blues, just from like a fire hose, straight 4 hours of blues music fired at you. And Reuben and I are both the only 2 Canadian guys there going, yeah, we totally understand this kind of music. Yeah. And it's just, for us, it was a lot to take in, but it was
So what
inspiring.
made you decide to go there?
Right.
Because I know that, because there's got to be a reason. I know that you have a guitar built by Reuben, a Joy guitar, which is beautiful, by the way. And I know you've gotten a lot of miles on that guitar. But you just kind of was this like an impulsive thing? You were like, I'm gonna go.
Well, my producer who did my Space Between the Stars record, about 2 weeks before this, so recently, he said to me, Des, I've invested 5 years in you, and I think it's time for you to go. You know what I mean? There's a point where you release some music, and we could stay here and keep writing music and putting songs out. But an artist, you're not. It's not being handed to you in a paper. The doors aren't just going to open for you in this situation. And I always wanted them to, and we always believed that maybe that could be a chance, because some artists, the doors just open for them. They put out a song, and that does all the work, right? You put out a song, and you have an audience, because the audience finds it, and it's something to do with, I won't say what words, like chance, luck, all those different things, but all that stuff didn't happen for me with this record. So I've been looking for opportunities, any opportunity to get on the road and communicate to people that I'm willing to do the work, and take opportunities and go to places that are outside my comfort zone.
I think that was, I'm actually really happy to hear that, because I know this has been a bit of a process. But when I say a bit of a process, I mean, it's been a process for you. You've had a commitment for a few years at least. Working in Vancouver, and I'm kind of glad that you're there and that you spent that time, but I think I agree with what your producer was telling you, that you need to kind of, and it's not like, oh, you're fired. It's more like, beat it. Like, this is for your own good. Get out there and be who you're supposed to be, kind of thing. Yeah,
he pretty much said something like this: I don't really want to see you anymore. in a loving way. Like, I don't want to see, like, go, like, fly. And that was the metaphor he used, was you're being pushed out of the nest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really had to process that, because I knew that was from a loving place. And you know that story, right? That the mother bird pushes the young out of the nest. In this case, he's by no means my mother bird, but in the creative environment, yes, he's the one with the studio with all of the resources that's investing his time raising these songs and raising this artist and putting the artist under his wing. He's a producer who I trust. And and then I had to process that, and then realizing that every day we wake up, Jason, and we have to decide either to jump from the nest or not. You know what I mean? Every day we almost find ourselves getting pushed out of the nest. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be these monumental things.
No, it doesn't have to be, but I think I pick it up what you're throwing down. It's like we can get really comfortable, especially in this business. It's easy to get comfortable, and I feel like comfort is good for it's time and place, right? We want to feel comfortable with who we are and what we're doing, but being challenged is really important. And I feel like if we don't challenge ourselves, or we're not being challenged with those that surround us, whether they just be friends, family, or industry pros like our partners in this journey that we're on, we can get into a rut, and that's a really dangerous place for an artist to be, is in a rut, because you're kind of stuck. I heard somebody say years ago, they said, hey, do you know what a rut is? A rut is a grave with both ends kicked out. And we kind of just stay there, and we're in this thing, but you got to climb out of it, which is not easy, and it's challenging, and you might not get out of it on the first try, but you got to get out of the rut. And because when we get out of the rut, that's when new things happen, and we grow, and we become stronger, or more, whatever's waiting for us outside the rut, that's the prize.
Right. So I feel like that's a good topic of our conversation, is challenges and facing challenges. And challenges come in different forms. And let's try and move away from the macro, or like the bird's eye view of challenges, or these monumental challenges, as if they're these big obstacles in a hero's journey kind of thing, you know? And maybe these challenges are these little things. Maybe these challenges are reaching out to a friend and saying, hey, I'm going to jump on a plane tomorrow and see you in New York. Is that okay? Like, would you like to see me? Would that be okay with you? And he goes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually have a spare bedroom or a spare bed for you.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem like a monumental thing or some crazy challenge. It seemed like a very natural thing when you're building a community of people around you.
Yeah, and I think everybody's heard it said that, you're only like, 2 people or 3 people or even 1 person away from somebody that's really important, or somebody that can help you or change things for you or, kind of launch you in some way. But it doesn't always have to be somebody that, it doesn't always have to be somebody, actually. It could just be a circumstance. You're really just 1 person away from something really new. And so that advice to say, hey, you know what, we've been working together for 5 years or whatever. It's time for you to go.
Mm.
And then jumping on a plane, for example, just let's use your example. Jumping on a plane to New York. Well, you've probably met somebody that, somebody new during your time there. And who knows what that opportunity can bring you.
Right, yeah. Well, and also flip it is, what are you going to give? Life is a gift, right? And that's meant to be shared. That's one of my goals. And maybe this is a new collaboration. You're going to find someone that you can collaborate with, And that seems a little more. That's a seed I'm willing to plant anywhere I go. It's like, Jason, let's collaborate.
Why don't we let's rewind just for a second, if you don't mind, because you and I have been friends for how long?
Long enough to say years. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love. This is one of my favorite stories, as how we met.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to tell it, but I also want to see.
Yeah. Okay.
So but I want you to comment on your perspective as well. So here's my perspective. So I moved to I had lived on the island for a few years, left the island, came back to Vancouver Island, to a different city, and I don't know if I saw you on social media or something like that. I think that's what it was. I saw a video, of you performing, and I thought, hey man, this guy's really good. Like, this kid's got what it takes to go somewhere. And I normally am not like a kind of a cold call kind of guy. I usually when I'm working, it's because somebody's contacted me. But in this particular circumstance, I thought, this is really good. I really dig what's happening. I'm going to send this guy a message. Mm-hmm. And I think we just had a little quick exchange, like email wise or message wise, where I was like, hey, my name is Jason. We need to talk. And you were like, yeah, let's talk. And so this is what struck me out of the whole story, which I think is so funny. And I'm like, yeah, I really want to work with you, I think is what I said. Something like that. I'd sure like to work with you. And I remember what you said. You said, why would I work with you? I don't know you, and I don't trust you. And I thought, oh, I was a little bit crushed. I'm not gonna lie, because I was such a fan of what you were doing. And you're like, yeah, I don't trust. And you were so honest. You were like, yeah, I don't trust you. And I was like, fair enough. Like, now I have to somehow build a relationship with this guy, which of course was not forced, because when we finally did meet face to face, it's like we hit it off. But I'll never forget that moment in time where it's like, I don't trust you. And that's kind of like every relationship. When we first meet somebody, like we don't automatically trust somebody.
Oh yeah, live show stuff, yeah, for sure.
So
You know,
anyway, did I tell the story fairly accurately? I don't remember.
Yeah,
but
and I love
100%.
I love what you mentioned to me about audiences, and audiences aren't dumb, and they don't trust you. No audience just goes into a room and trusts the artist. There's a period in time where that moment happens, and they go, I trust, this is good, you know. But we have to. We're I guess beings of trust, you know. We have to exchange that in a conversation every moment, right?
Right.
So I guess we're always calculating, you know, do I trust this? People are probably watching this right now and going, you know, like, do we trust these two people on these screens, you know? But Reuben, right? So Reuben, he trusts, I trust him, and he trusts me to a point where we talk about the new people that are coming into these collaborations, honestly, and it gives us both perspective. So I met a couple people down here where I went, Reuben, I just want you to know that you're the one with the assets here. You know, you're the one with the guitar made out of Jimi Hendrix's family home. You know, you already have the tool, and the person that's coming along with you on your journey doesn't really need to help lift you up. It's a collaboration at this point. You know, never lose sight of that. And no one's a bad person, but I think boundaries need to be set, at least when you're starting new adventures with people, or even culting that. So all that kind of stuff we discussed, and we were even talking about my own life too. And after this trip, we go, let's work together more. Reuben and I, right? And
yeah,
what can we do together? So all those kind of things, it's gonna be exciting this next year for the team. And I include you in that, Jason, that you're a part of this too. So
hey, thanks, buddy. Back to Reuben though. So Reuben, if anybody doesn't know Reuben is an artist. He's a guitar builder extraordinaire. I mean, he doesn't just build great guitars, but he builds pieces of art that all have a story. He's built for Slash, and he's built for now the Jimi Hendrix family, the legacy. The guy he only lives, by the way, just maybe 20 minutes from where I live, so I get to see him from time to time, and we get to hang out. Yeah, so but you actually, you actually introduced me to him years ago in the Comox Valley. But Reuben is got to be like the most humble dude that I've had the pleasure of meeting and hanging out with. He's such a cool guy, and I think, like, when I think of Reuben, I think of storyteller. And not only does he, when you talk to him, does he like to share stories that are really captivating all the time, but even in his craft, it's like there's a story. There's always a story, and that's what's so great about Reuben, is that he's not just a guitar builder. He's not just a great guy. He's not just an artist, but he's a guy that, you know, his story or whatever is important to him is always flowing through everything that he does. And he's such a gentle, humble guy. I'm so thankful that I get to call him my friend. So, and you must have had just an amazing time hanging out with him in the big city there. So,
yeah, I got to see the Indiana Jones that he is. You know, have you ever seen him in Indiana Jones mode, where he's in the cave? And he's got the bag of sand, and he's got to exchange it for the priceless, or, you know, the artifact. Right. So we're walking throughout the city with this toy guitar that's built out of the home, right? Jimi Hendrix's home out of Seattle. But Jimmy spent a lot of his career in New York. New York is where he was first founded or discovered, and he had an apartment there, and he has a studio there. So we went to the studio first that day, and we were going to knock on the door because we sent them an email and they didn't respond to us. And we have a priceless guitar made out of the home of Jimi Hendrix. You know, it breathes authenticity. It's just this beautiful guitar. And they didn't let us in. You know, they didn't respond to our email. So
Wow.
we went to their door, and just as we were walking up to the door, we were prepared for, you know, being rejected. We walk up to the door, and Reuben, with his goodwill and his good heart, sees a FedEx lady trying to get inside the studio, downtown Manhattan. So Reuben holds the door open for her. And then the girl says, oh, thank you. Well, she sees the guitar that he's holding, and she goes, well, come on in. Because she thought that we had an appointment or something. And we walk into the lobby completely blind, and the person behind the till is freaking out, like, oh my goodness, we have strangers in the studio right now. This is exactly why my job's in jeopardy. You know, because I have friends that have tried buzzing in before and getting the can, right. You can't just show up at the studio. You can't do that. Make an appointment, and you have to make an appointment, you got to know somebody, kind of thing. And we're inside the studio. We made it inside the cave, and the lady's trying to tell us to leave, but Reuben's really like focused, and he goes, hey, I just want to let you know that I have this guitar you might want to see it. And they're like, no, thank you. He's like, oh, no, you want to see it. And he puts it down, opens it up, shows them. And this lady that was in there happened to be the liaison who shows the artists around the studio. And she goes, oh, my goodness. At first, she's trying to throw us out, this other person.
Yeah.
And she pulls out her phone to take pictures of the guitar, and then gives us the can and says, make an appointment. And we were joking as we were leaving. We're like, oh, they're going to invite us back. They're totally going to invite us back. And they never did. They never did. But from there, we went to Jimi Hendrix's apartment. And outside of the apartment, I don't know, I felt drawn to write a song about how the places we go and the things that surround us, all these little things become integral to who we are. They actually become parts of who we are. And what Reuben did with the guitar is actually literally take the floorboards of Jimmy's house. You know, that's almost directly associated with him and his career, and making it into a guitar, which is an homage to his legacy, right? With even the nails as the fret dots, you know, straight down to the finest detail, you know.
Yeah.
And here
his work is astounding.
It is, yeah.
And it's not like he's a solo artist, you know, like it's not like he's going, hey, and you know, he's not like collaborating with somebody to come up with these ideas. Like these are things that he dreams up in his head way before he puts his hands to work, and he just creates.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not only in his head. He's looking for the inert object that he can see value in. He sees a piece of wood as gold, you know.
Yeah.
So, sorry to continue the story, but
sorry to interrupt you.
No, you didn't. Of course. I performed this song with that guitar outside of Jimmy's apartment on the street, just out on the street performing this song. That was a nice little moment. Now, the last trip that we did, we kept our heads high. He wanted to go to Cafe Wah. Cafe Wah is where Jimi Hendrix was first founded. So you can imagine, you know, Pete Townsend or someone that of acclaim, like you mentioned that there's these people who have the ability to influence and see potential in artists. So this person sitting in this cafe watching Jimi Hendrix play behind his head, you know, lighting his guitar on fire, that kind of stuff. He probably didn't do that show, but to that extent where it's like this person is a star, you know, Jimi Hendrix, right? So we're at the venue, and we can't get inside that venue either because we're just two guys from Canada walking around New York with this guitar. And Reuben went full on Indiana Jones. He saw some scrap wood because they were doing renovations inside the cafe.
Yeah.
And the construction workers were just hauling this wood out onto the street. Like, oh, it's just junk. But to Reuben, he's like, oh, I can make a pick guard out of that, or I could make that into a neck of a guitar because I could make another Jimi Hendrix guitar out of this, or a rock and roll inspired guitar. And so he goes up to them and I ask them politely, hey, I got this guitar. It's kind of a big deal, and and I see this wood here. Can I take some home with me? And they're like, no, don't do it. We're just going to throw it out, and there's nothing really of importance. But at least I got to see, for the first time with my own eyes, Reuben going full on Indiana Jones, sees the artifacts, and he's dodging all of the obstacles, and he's in his element,
Yeah.
I feel like Reuben should have an Indiana Jones hat. You should walk around with one of those,
It would probably suit him very well.
Yeah. And he told me the story about how that's his goal in life, is to see gold in places that people never would ever think there was. To see value in things that to the rest of us is just earth, just wood, just junk, let's say. So one person's junk is another person's potential. As much as this movement of turning pallets into furniture, driving down the street, and your wife goes, "Hey, that'd be a beautiful, side table," and you go, "No, that's just a bunch of junk,"
Hey, man, trust me, that happens all the time.
Yeah, totally. So back on the topic, let's talk about challenges. All right, so facing challenges. Do you feel comfortable sharing any challenges that you're going through right now?
I'm not really going through many challenges right now. Like nothing that is, I guess, coming to the top of my brain. So, in what regard are you talking about? Are you talking about music challenges? What are you talking about?
Well, I like the analogy of being pushed out of the nest. Waking up in the morning and going, "Oh, I just gotta plop or fly today. It's either going to be a plop or it's going to be a fly."
All right, I've got one for you. So probably most of your listeners don't even know who I am. So why don't you introduce me and what I do, and then I'll tell you what I'm dealing with as a challenge.
I should have done this at the beginning, but anyways.
No,
yeah, I will. Okay. So Jason Parsons is a person who sees the live show as more than the live show, as much as Shakespeare saw life as a stage. You help people refine their stage performance, but you see life. I believe you see life as a dance, or you see life as a play. That there is no real objective, but always perfecting the dance. There's always more to learn, and that attention to detail and that drive is always something that inspired me about you.
Cool. Hey, man, thank you. So I work with artists all the time. So solo artists, bands. So I'm not a studio guy. I'm not a studio producer. Although I wish I was, because those guys are crazy talented. I wish I could be the guy that could hear those things in the studio that really make for great records. But I'm the guy that I'm kind of like the producer for the live show. So I'm the guy that visually can see the show and figure out, what do we need to do up here to make this experience captivating for our audience. So creating moments and writing the show, ordering the songs, all with the intent of creating an experience for our audience. And of course, the payoff is, more fans, more merch sales, more success as an artist when we're out there actually doing what we do live, right? So that's kind of what I do. So not to tell my whole life story, but I trained under a guy from Nashville, Tennessee, who works with basically anybody that's coming out of Nashville right now that's a big star. This guy has probably worked with them. And so that's who I that's who I learned from and studied under for many, many years. So back to your question. What is one of my challenges right now? And this is, I don't want to say that it's a challenge, but I think it's something that I've been thinking about quite often, almost daily, lately when I work with artists or when I go and speak at different music events or you know, trade shows or conferences or whatever. And the challenge is this. It's really easy to regurgitate and repeat. So I've spent 25 plus years as a working musician and somebody studying the live performance. And it's really easy to get into the habit of, and I'm very guilty of it, of getting into this groove or this rut that we talked about earlier of just saying the same things over and over and over again. You know, it becomes habitual almost, to the point where it's like I'm just saying the same things over and over again. And I find that lately I have not been satisfied with just teaching, you know, textbook techniques for on-stage success. Although all those things are really important, the challenge, and I was met with this challenge just about a month ago. I was speaking at a music business conference, and I got in there thinking, okay, I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about this, and something came over me, and I just really kind of unloaded on, and this is a room, by the way, conference room full of artists. You know, recording artists, touring musicians. These guys are wanting to make this a career, and so they're writing songs, or recording records, or playing shows, or doing festivals, or doing merch, they're doing social, they're doing the whole thing. And I just felt this this need to just kind of lay it all out. And sometimes I can speak with some pretty colorful language, and so, you know, I was kind of in the room, and I was kind of pointing, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but, you know, I'm pointing at artists, and I'm going, you know, you suck, you know,
Wow.
you're a great singer, and just because you're a great singer doesn't mean everybody agrees with you. You know, you might be a great guitar player, but just because you're a great guitar player doesn't mean that everybody else agrees with you. Guitar players are a dime a dozen. Singers are a dime a dozen. What are you doing to set yourself apart from everybody else that has got the same dream that you have, to be a rock star? And so I just really jumped off of the, you know, what I would normally do, and just laid it all out with a little bit of emotion, because I love this stuff. I'm pretty passionate about it. And so I guess if you're asking me what has been my challenge lately, it has been that I can't just go and teach a curriculum of how do we do things on stage or how we do things as an artist. There has to be some heart. There has to be some passion. You have to believe in it. And just because I believe in something doesn't mean you will. So it's all about conviction. We have to convince people that what we're doing is important. And so for me, the challenge for me right now is to help artists get out of the mindset of, I'm a great singer, and so therefore everybody thinks I'm a great singer. Or I write good songs, so everybody should be listening to them. Or any of those things, because it's completely false. You know, I heard somebody say not that long ago, I think it was Rick Barker, who was a manager for Taylor Swift. He said, how did he say? He said something about, you know, you might write great songs, but a great song is nothing if nobody's listening to it. right? So you might be a great singer, but who gives a shit if nobody's listening to you? You've got to set yourself apart. And so that's the challenge for me, is to really light the fire for artists, that it's more than just social media. It's more than just putting out a good record. It's more than just looking cool. You have to engage your audience, and you have to build your fan base. And the only way to do that is to do something different. But I'm not talking about different in a way that, you know, I'm going to be different for the sake of being different. I'm talking about, who are you? You got to figure out who you are. And that's what people are drawn to. The genuineness of what you do, what you stand for. And you got to put it out there. You got to put it on the table. And you can't let people down. Stop playing the game. This is not a cookie cutter industry. Although it has been. And I think that's why we're in the shape that we are. But you've got to be who you are. And so my challenge right now in my job, working with artists all the time, is to help figure out who they are and draw it out. Right? Stop trying to echo this guy. Stop trying to echo that guy. Be who you are. Stop. You got to be a voice and not an echo. And so that's my challenge, Des.
Yeah, I'm getting shivers because I knew that quote was coming. That's my favorite quote. Be a voice, you know, find your voice. And some of the greats have said, if I could only live where the great songs are. The greatest songwriters of all time, Jason, say that. If I could only live where the great songs are. So that drive, once again, it's not a destination. It's not a journey. It's a dance. But the dance is a journey, and the dance has movement and it has a story, but at least you can live in it. You can live in your voice. You can find it. You can express it. And you're an artist. Yeah. Dance, you know, and express yourself, emote, show heart, and communicate it, and inspire, and entertain, but enjoy the dance. And step on toes, because the best thing about dancers is you're not really learning until you're stepping on toes. You know, you have to not be afraid that your partner can even dance and step on your toes too, I guess. Right. I'm not a very good dancer. I'm trying to think of analogies, but
I remember sitting with the late great Ralph Murphy, who was a songwriter. If you don't know who Ralph Murphy is, just Google Ralph Murphy. Ralph actually passed away a couple of years ago, but I had the honor of teaching with him at a music conference. It must have been almost 10 years ago now. And this guy wrote his first #1 hit when he was, I think, 17 years old or something like that. He's from the UK. And he's written for everybody. So just Google him, you'll find out his history. But this is the point. I was sitting with him, and we were on a break, and he was sitting there with his iPad, and he had one earbud in, and he had his iPad sitting here, and he was counting out timing for a song and listening to it in his headphones. And I said, "Oh, what are you doing over there, Ralph?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm just charting a song. You know, trying to figure out, you know, the right tempo, blah, 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 time signature." And I thought, oh, wow, he's talking to me, so I'm going to ask him a question. And I said, "Hey, Ralph, what's it like writing a hit song?" And he goes, and he just looked at me, and he pulled his earbud out, and he goes, "I don't write hit songs. I write #1 hit songs."
Oh,
and I was like, oh my God. Now this guy was at that time, I think around 70 years old, but he had made a career out of kind of going back to what you said, being a little bit different, being who you are and not being afraid to explore that. This is a guy that was not afraid to write a crap song, because he probably wrote hundreds and thousands of crap songs until he discovered the hit. You know what I mean? So anyway, that inspired me.
What inspired me too, or when Reuben and I were really trying to figure it out, we go, how are we going to accomplish all these goals tomorrow? We have all these places to see. And he didn't want to have these goals. Reuben already had his plan. He was going to go to this concert and show his condolences to the B.B. King tribute. And, you know, it's a celebration of life. And he didn't want to make any other plans. And he goes, "Des, I'm not looking to make an impact here. I'm here to respect what's going on, and all these different things. And I mentioned to Reuben, I went, but Reuben, you could still bring your guitar with you wherever you go, because that's authentic to you. And just like the story of you with the guy with the earbud, you know, he's there. Oh, he's working on a song right there, you know. And I think that's one choice that overcomes so many challenges, is carry your instrument with you. Always work on it. And you know me, Jason, I've carried my guitar so many times across the ocean back and forth to Vancouver, or it's always by my side. I sometimes I don't even play it, but because I'm holding it, I'm thinking about music, you know?
Yeah. And
when we were walking around with that guitar, all these ideas were coming to us, and all these things were, people were asking, hey, what type of guitar is that? They're the ones starting the conversation, you know? And Reuben didn't even have to do any work, because he was just being authentic, carrying his guitar around, you know, and within the respect and of people's lives and their own things they're dealing with, you know. And that's tough, man. It's so tough to do. But when you're carrying it around with you, yeah, I don't know. I love the idea of finding your voice. There's a podcast that I'm going to release soon about finding your voice. But this is interesting, because facing your challenges is something we all have a challenge with. Like, this is probably the ultimate topic, you know.
It really is, because we are and we are, first of all, we need to recognize that the industry that we work in, music, is not the same as it was 25 years ago. You know, and every artist, you know, at the beginning stages, they've always got that the goal. I need a record deal. Want a record deal. And it's such a. I wish people could fully realize how lame of a goal that is. The record deal, because the record deal is not like it was, you know, 25 plus years ago. It's completely different, and so they're chasing after something that really doesn't serve the artist well.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
But I believe that pillar that holds the roof up, that aspect of an artist's collaboration or music collective, almost needs a fourth pillar. But the question is, throughout time and history, that pillar has always changed. You know what I mean? And when the artists change and the music's change and the way to write songs change, so does that pillar. It's almost, there's different chemical or different compounds going into the concrete to make this Greco-Roman pillar, you know? But it's not Greece anymore. It's now modernized, and now we're working with steel. Now we're working with different things.
Yeah,
people are still
different.
But it's the same. It's still serving a purpose that I don't think will ever change.
Well, I believe, and Des, sorry, I want to disagree. If I'm hearing what you're saying, I'm going to disagree with you. That you feel like, yeah, the material's changed, but the purpose is the same. I think that both the material and the purpose has changed when it comes to the record deal. Because, and let me just say it this way. So back 25 years ago, when I was charting as a singer in a band, and we were on the radio and we were charting, and we were relatively successful, and we just wanted that record deal. You know, back then a record deal, and even more than that, even like 30 years ago, a record deal meant that when you signed the dotted line, you know, they would send you to the studio. They would pay for the record. Now, granted, yeah, it's a deal, so they're going to pay for all these things, but you got to pay it back. But they invested a lot in the artist. So they not only invested in the recording of the record, the tour sponsorship, getting you out on the road and getting that all sorted out. They talked about, you know, image. They would dress you and, you know, figure out what your look was going to be. They would bring in people to help develop you on, you know, live, you know, get your show sorted out. Like, they did all these things for you. Yeah. And so the difference between then and now is that, yeah, today it's the same thing. They're going to give you a bunch of money that you got to pay back. It's like a bank loan. But now the difference is that they're only concerned about the record. That's all they care about, because that's where they're going to invest their money. So every record you sell, that's where they get paid. You know where they don't get paid? They don't get paid from your live show. That's the difference. So now they invest in an artist who, you know, they might have one hit, and they will blast that stuff as much as possible out into the interweb and into the radio waves, and just push that thing, because that's revenue. It's revenue for the record company. But they could care less about what you're raking in at the live show. They could care less what you look like, really, at the end of the day. I mean, unless you're a big artist like the Taylor Swift or the, you know, like a big artist. There's very few of those, by the way, nowadays. Yeah. So they don't send people in like to do all these things anymore. So you're really taking out a big loan. And the record company's making the money. You're still starving. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this again and again and again, and I've seen it tried and true. I heard somebody say this years ago, the guy that taught me about live performance. He said 95% of your revenue will come from your live show. And I got to be honest with you. Not only is that true for an artist that does not have a record deal, but it's especially true for those that do. Because they're not making anything off the record. The record company's taking all that money. Right? It's the live show. Mm-hmm. So if we're not engaging with our audience, if we're not putting on a killer live show, so that people go, oh my God, where's the merch table? Because I want to find that CD that has that song that made me feel this way. I need to buy it. And they'll dump $25 on a record or $20 on a record just for one moment to re-experience that. If you're not doing that live, I don't know how you can survive as an artist.
Or whatever's on the merch table that brings that moment home with them. So I think the problem is I'm taking on someone else's analogy. I'd like to change the analogies to Reuben's analogy from yesterday. Reuben says, Des, do you know about chestnuts? And I go, chestnuts? What are you talking about, chestnuts? And he goes, what happens is a chestnut falls in a certain time of the season, right? And the deer are drawn to eat the chestnuts that fall from the tree. And the ones that don't get eaten decompose a little bit. And only when they decompose a little bit, the hoof of the deer pushes that into the dirt. Mm. And all that has to happen for the chestnut to take root to become another oak tree. And so this idea of the artist creating something desirable to their audience, and the audience comes along and they pick it up and they eat it and they consume it, but even the audience that comes along somehow serves a purpose. They have no idea that they're taking a role in that creation in other ways, or whoever it is.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like I am the chestnut being stomped in the ground, eaten up and pooped out. You know what I mean? That's the challenge as well, is going, I don't see the purpose in all this. Talking about life now. So I don't see the purpose in all this. And then Reuben, one more thing is, he says that the tree changes its techniques over centuries. Some trees evolve over time to have a seed that when it falls from the tree, like the maple, it swirls and uses the wind to land somewhere and potentially someplace fertile, you know? And it doesn't have to be eaten or those kind of things. Or there's another one and it comes along and there's so many different ways. A dandelion, you know?
Yeah.
And the music goes into the vastness of, and lands where, in whoever's, you know, I'm using analogies because I feel like the one I used before was almost this empire kind of building one of concrete and holding up roofs and
yeah.
I don't like that.
I hear what you're saying, and I actually really love that illustration. Heaven forbid that artists didn't write if they knew that they would never be a big star. Because thank God for all of the incredible music that we have. This catalog, this treasure trove of creation that we have for music, and some of my favorite music is from unknowns, independent artists, and
The seed that fell between the cracks, yeah.
Yeah, the stuff that somebody passed up, but it's gold for somebody else, right? Like kind of back to what Reuben was saying, like it's you find this thing that nobody recognizes as being valuable, but it lands on somebody's ear, and they're like, oh my God, like it's brilliant. It changed me, or it inspired me, or in whatever way that is for them. We need people like that, and those are the kind of artists that I like to work with. Now, I've worked with the basement band getting ready to play the club. I've worked for the band that was, that was their job, playing clubs. I've worked with the bands that were going out on tour, coast to coast tours, or North American tours, or European tours. I've worked with the bands that have been nominated for Grammys. My favorite band to work with are the ones that they believe in their music, and there's a message, and it's like there's something that they want to say. They're passionate about what they're doing. Those are the easy bands to work with. It's like, a guitar player, right? Oh, you need to look cooler when you play that solo. I find that the bands that are the artists that are writing music that they're really passionate about, you don't have to teach them the simple things like how to make it look like you feel it. That they've already nailed that. When they're playing, they're feeling it. And those are the easy ones to play with or to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank God that we have artists out there that are just writing because they want to say something. It's so inspiring to see even on Vancouver Island alone, the amount of talent that resides here on this tiny little island is astounding.
Mm-hmm.
And you're one of them.
Thanks. Well, you are too. You're also the talent as well, right? And I feel like you're the person that everyone would look past. You know that. You know that the entertainment coach or the person who cares about the live stage is that's just something strange I don't understand, or I don't need that, let's say.
Yeah.
You are that inert object that Reuben would come across and see value in. You know what I mean? You're that diamond in the rough kind of.
Well, I told you the story. I was out of Canada for 2 years, just shy of 2 years. I had left. I had some work to do outside of the country. I was in Europe for a couple of years. Was not doing any music stuff at all. And I just came back to Canada this past July. And I was really questioning whether I wanted to do this music work anymore. Because it's hard. Like it's you're putting yourself out there, and you're always, hey, like me, hire me, and it's tough. It's like being a musician. Hey, buy my record, buy my T-shirt, like my music, vote for me on this competition. There's all these things, right? So it can be onerous. It can be it takes a lot of effort. And I remember coming back in this past July, and I was thinking, man, I don't think I'm going to work with bands anymore. I don't think I'm going to work in the music industry anymore because it's just too hard, and I got to rebuild a web page, or I got to flash up a Facebook site, or any of those things. And my daughter, who at the time was 20, she's 21 now. She just turned 21. My little girl's 21. But she came into to my office and she said, "Hey, Dad, what's going on?" And we got talking about, what my thoughts were about continuing to do this work. And I said, "Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do it anymore. I just, it's just too hard to convince artists that, that they need help on stage." And she goes, "Dad, are you sure you're going to stop doing this stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure. Like, I just don't have the energy for it. Like, I'm tired of trying to convince people that they need help." And she said, "Dad, this is your life. You've immersed your whole life in this stuff. You've spent the last 25 years studying live performance, investing yourself in artists and seeing them grow." And she said, "And so just because you're feeling a little discouraged, you're just not going to do it anymore?" And I was like, it was like the last thing I wanted to hear. And then she left the room and I sat there for another hour or so contemplating, the future of what, working with bands, or my future with working with bands. And I thought, you know what? She's right. We need people like the producers in the studio. We need the guitar teachers, at the instrument stores, the Long McQuaid guys. We need vocal coaches. We need all these people. This is the network for the aspiring artists, and there's really not many people that do what I do. I want to say something, if you'll allow me to say one more thing, and this really goes back to that question you asked me about what my challenge is right now, and that is I just really am done wasting time working with artists on the perfection of their craft on stage. Walk 3 steps to the left, or when you do that solo, you need to. I want your face to be like this, or whatever, like all those little tiny visual things, which are important. But this is what I want to say, Des. I was just working with a band, it was a couple weekends ago. And they had this great rehearsal space, and we spent 3 days of solid rehearsal. Every song, boom, boom, boom. Start, stop, start, stop. We wrote the set list. And they were getting tired. So was I. We were all getting tired. Because it's hard work getting ready, right? And, it's all original music. And finally, everybody's getting frustrated, like, I can't do this, I can't do that, or I don't like going over there, I don't want to do this, and I don't like that song in this position, I'd rather do this song. And, dealing with all the challenges, I just said, okay, everybody listen. Shut the PA down. Shut it down. Everybody drop your instruments. Let's just do it right now. Let's have a conversation. And I just said, listen. You got to be you. Your music is your music. It's different from everybody else's. You got your own thing going on, and that's good. We want to be different from everybody else. But this is the thing that was the most important, I think, that we talked about. I said, when you're on this stage, when the moment you decide to take your music out of your basement or out of your rehearsal space and onto a stage, it is no longer about you anymore. It is about them, the audience. And don't ever, ever kid yourself. When you step onto a stage, that is not a right. It's a privilege. You have an opportunity to impact people. And just because you're a great singer, and just because you're a great this or that, that's not what impacts people. It's who you are. Who you are will always, 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 every day of the week, make the difference. So when you're on stage, always remember, it's not a right. It's a privilege. and take that opportunity to change somebody's life, inspire them. That's my challenge that I give to you today.
Thank you, Jason. And to everyone listening, thank you for tuning in.
We can talk about love.